Listen. Listen closely, and I will tell of a legend, one of the oldest in all of our knowing. It is from a time so remote that the bright stars in the dark velvet-rich night sky ache for a time before that time to return. They remember what went before it, with a fondness that brings a distant longing to their hearts and a pain for which they know there is no cure. Now, in the tranquillity of the summer and the cold, comfortless winter, the stars listen to the bleak laments from some far-off worlds, and their hearts ache. Their hearts break to return to a time when there was nothing but silence in the air, and they would have a smile upon their lips and a happiness and joy in their hearts. In what seems like so many lifetimes before, unstoppable curiosity filled their minds when they first heard the low, deep moaning in the night. They had intrigue wrap her relentless, mischievous fingers about their minds as they tried to sleep, as they tried to rest. But it fascinated and repulsed them at one and the same time to hear someone or something suffering. Suffering so much that it caused them to lament and wail to the heavens. Night followed restless, disturbed night, and it had lasted through 100,000 human lifetimes, and still it would not stop. Whether you are a star, a god, or a human, those things that you try to ignore only become more fascinating and compulsive the more you try to put them from your mind. And so it was with the stars. The song seemed to come from all parts of the universe at one and the same time. The verses of the song were so out of harmony that they could not have been just one voice. The mourning never stopped for day or night or for seasons or for breath. Each of the bright stars had their own ideas as to who or what it could be that was in such continued pain that they needed to make such a sorrowful lament to the night. Some thought that it was a lover who had lost a companion through war. It had to be someone that had suffered such a loss to justify making such a slow, sad song to the heavens. Others said that it must be the lament of a mother who knew that her sons and daughters were leaving her, never to return. Whatever it was, and whosoever it was, they could think or speak of nothing else. It was decided amongst them all to try and solve this puzzle, to bring an end to this mystery. They decided that it was their duty to the heavens to try and solve this puzzle once and for all time. If nothing else, they wanted peace of mind and a chance to think about something other than this terrible sorrow that fell onto their ears. But how could they stop in their slow twinkling travelling from one end of the universe to another to find out what had caused this suffering and still give light to the world? How were they to find the reason behind all of this sadness? They huddled together and spoke and raved, ranted and cried about what could be done and how they could stop this endless, sad singing. Without them knowing it, their whisperings, as they thought they were, their whisperings were no secret to anyone who cared to listen, for their voices were raised and their words were sharp for all to hear. And, as if in answer to their prayers, a comet, as light as the sun itself, with a great curiosity in its soul, had listened to all that they had discussed as it had darted through the heavens. Like some eager child, too willing to please, it spoke to the great council of stars. Let me go and find out. Let me go and find out. Please, let me. It would never have been so bold to talk to its betters, the stars, but it could tell by the desperation in their voices that they would listen now. Let me go. Let me go and find out. Let me. Its voice was not the most pleasant, and in the past it had good reason to know the sharp end of all of the stars' tongues when they considered it had come too close for their liking. Let me go and find out. Please, let me. Many of the stars felt irritated by their smaller cousin and had never shown the slightest interest in what he had to say. Many were irritated by the very fact that he had dared to speak to them without being asked. Please let me go. Please let me go and find out. Let me. I will find out for you, and I will be able to return and bring you news that will bring peace and sleep to your minds. The words gabbled out like a flowing torrent as it circled about the stars and repeated its request. It was the oldest of all of the stars that spoke first. All right. You can go, but you must bring the news straight to us, and do not tell anyone or anything else about what you find. Her voice echoed and rattled in that empty place. Oh, I will. You will not be sorry that you asked me. I will find out for you what has caused this great lament to fill the sky. I will find out for you all. Thank you. Some were vaguely amused by the antics of the comet, but others turned their backs to him and muttered darkly amongst themselves that he was no better than a child, and that it was a foolish king or queen who sent a fool on a king's errand. Remember, tell no one else about what you find. The words followed in the wake of the comet, for he had taken no time to think about waiting another moment longer in this place. It was with a renewed strength and purpose that the comet moved through the heavens, and now it had a reason to talk and interrupt anyone or anything that even vaguely crossed its path. Tell me, he would say, tell me now, tell me, his voice almost becoming as loud as the groan in the sky. Many had seen the comet as nothing more and nothing less than an irritation. Many had tried to ignore the noise that filled the darkness, and it was a great source of sorrow that, in his curiosity, he had awoken their own sadness and had ruined their own ability to ignore the dark song of the heavens. For those who would talk to him, they had theories and rumours, they had lies and conjectures, and each was more fanciful than the one before. But in all of this there was one thing that occurred and reoccurred. Everyone spoke in hushed tones of the planets themselves. He had noticed on his journey that the voices of the planets could be heard as he passed them. But the stories of the great bodies in the heavens was always of them being as one family, and it couldn't possibly be them that caused the great sorrow to be heard. More bold than he had ever been, the comet decided that he would give himself the courage to ask the nearest planet that he came to. After all, he had been to each of the corners of the universe and still had nothing to tell the stars. With nothing to tell the stars, then he would be a laughingstock to anyone who would be bothered to even glimpse his magnificent fiery trail through the sky. If I have nothing to tell them, then I might...